Well, thanks everybody for joining. Katie, if you'd like to start off, we can go through the resource kits announcements for this month.
Yep, so we actually have a record number of 27 modules on track for release next Wednesday, June 13th. It's a pretty long list, so I'm going to try to paste it here in the chat. Alright, so we've got Active Directory CS going out, Audit Policy, Certificate, Computer Management, DFS, Networking, Security Policy, SharePoint, SQL Server, X Active Directory, X BitLocker, X Database, X DHCP Server, X DISM Feature, X DNS Server, X DSC Diagnostics, X DSC Resource Designer, X Exchange, X Hyper-V, X PowerShell Execution Policy, X PS Desired State Configuration, X Remote Desktop Session Host, X SCSMA, X System Security, X Time Zone, which is actually getting deprecated because it's moved in Computer Management, X Web Administration, and X Win Event Log. It's not quite all of them. It's about half of all the repos we have in the resource kit are going out next week.
That is awesome. And
yeah. All thanks to Johan, who's been working super hard on the resource kit this past month. So thank you, Johan.
Thank you, Johan. Johan, as like an overall or high-level view of all these changes going in, are there any comments or things you'd like to share with the community, or like things that we can do better as we move forward?
I did just see him drop in and out, so he might not have heard.
Johan, I'm going to unmute your microphone.
Yeah, no.
There we go.
Do you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I'm having trouble here.
No problem.
I think I'm all right now.
Did you hear my question?
No, sorry.
No problem. The question is, so there's a monumental number of resources that have been updated this month, and we really appreciate all of your effort in driving these. As you reflect on that, is there anything at a high level, or generally speaking, that just looking across the community, any patterns that you see that lead to success, or things that we should be doing differently in our overall approach, or any observations you might like to share?
It's we do need someone that can keep answering questions, reviewing code. We do need more easier. There are a lot of repeating information you have to give to contributors when they send in PRs that we could do in like unit tests, common tests in the test framework. But overall, I think there needs to be someone that continuously monitoring all resources. I see this. I spend at least 5-6 hours a day answering issues, reviewing PRs now. So it's a lot of work.
I had a thought there.
Sorry?
I had a thought there too, because I've had a similar thing happen within my organization. Is because there is so much patterns that when we work in the DSC resources we see, but it's hard to convey those to new people that we need to support those efforts. I don't know if Microsoft has thought about coming out with like an kind of like a standard operators type of methodology for working on DSC resources. Similar, if anybody's familiar with like how Red Hat came out with an operators framework to work on Kubernetes type stuff. It kind of gave the community a way to rally around and develop in a targeted fashion, or support in a targeted fashion.
We do have our guidelines that should help, but most PRs are just adding functionality to existing resources. So most common review comments are around style. The functionality is often correct. So the problem is we need more control, more tests that test the style, so the contributors can easily fix things before a reviewer get to the PR. I think that would help a lot. But you're talking about some kind of framework. I don't know if we have that really. We have, as I said, the style guidelines. We have all the guidelines on how to build resources. But are you looking for a fresh resource, an entire new resource module?
Oh, yeah, no, it was just more kind of supportive, just, similarly a different perspective too. Because I don't have the answer either. I'm just, I know within my organization, I'm trying to always get more buy-in so that more people can support those efforts in any way to kind of simplify or kind of provide a single framework. It is just a personal goal, I think. Yeah. Oh, and look, we have one of those. Somebody just posted in there.
Yeah, I just dropped in. I think that's what I was just researching. I think that's what you're referring to. I'll look over that. That's really interesting. That sounds like it's possibly as much to do with the consumption side as it is the authoring side. It sounds like we're hearing two different approaches to the same problem space. So I'll definitely look at the operator framework, and then maybe what you need to do is start creating a backlog of tests, basically while we're going through and reviewing things, if the same thing needs to be provided as feedback more than a couple of times, then it should probably become a test so that the person can self-discover that issue. And so we just create a test backlog, and I'd be happy to help contribute to the tests once we know what we need.
Yeah.
I know you had been looking at a couple of things that you might want to share with the community. Like one was the tagging solution, kind of organizing things in the projects. Any thoughts and observations in those areas that you might want to share?
Yeah, to speed up the time maintainers need to focus on the repos. We should definitely get some automation going with labeling, auto-commenting, and so on. I'm looking at that. I try to add stale to repos, to DSC resources and SQL Server DSC, because I know in SQL Server DSC there's a lot of stale issues that I could test on, and I saw issues with that. We have our framework. Process is that, for example, we should label PRs abandoned after 14 days, so other contributors can work on them instead. If the original author didn't have time, or I mostly don't have time. It seems that stale has a bug in there, so I really can't activate it on all repos as I thought I could. So we have to wait for that. But I think if we can get some automation going, it would save a lot of time, especially my time. for one that monitoring all 60 repos.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and I also saw today, I haven't had time to read it yet, but GitHub released some kind of new functionality in projects that could auto tag something also. I'm gonna look into that. So the problem here with automation is that there are so many different parts that monitoring issues and PRs. We have a waffle, we have stale, we have reviewable, and so on. I also looking at trying to add a new. I rather want to extend other GitHub apps to handle our workflow, but I'm looking at creating one of our own just to see if it works. But I see we have to match between all these apps so we don't get a ping pong behavior. So one is changing a label and another app is changing back the label and so on. So it's going to be a bit of work there, I think. But in the end, I think it's going to save a lot of time.
Okay. Yeah, do you think we need, maybe we'll set up a couple of meetings and talk about that in more detail and try to get closure on what a tagging system could look like. Yeah. Okay, so looking across all of these projects, for either anybody who's a maintainer or author that would like to make comment, or Johan, you're certainly an expert in these areas as well. Are there particular modules that the community should maybe take a look at that have had really significant contributions this month? As an example, I see that X time zones being deprecated in favor of moving that into computer management DSC. Are there other examples like that people should just maybe take a second if they're using one of these modules to go further understand the changes that are coming in?
I think there are some, or one. I'm not sure. I think it's Katie. We don't have any breaking resource, right? But I think we do have one.
I think I saw a couple breaking changes in some of the resources.
So those that have breaking changes, that would be good.
Yeah.
Good to look up.
It looks like Active Directory CS might have a breaking change, and then
Daniel just called out that X networking is becoming networking DSC. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's just been renamed. And then it looks like X PowerShell execution policy. That's getting one of its parameters renamed, so that's a breaking change. And then X SCSMA has a breaking change, and X Web Administration has a breaking change. It looks like on the XIIS feature delegation resource.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So there's a few that has breaking changes that the community can look at.
Yep.
If they use them.
Good to know.
And in the comments section here, Leo has a PR pending for. I think Leo has a PR pending for moving. Yeah. It's gonna be. So if we can get that through this week, we can release that to then Leo.
Yes, so that PR is bringing my language pack or language DSC module into computer management DSC, so it brings support for setting system and user locales and the installation of language packs.
Oh, wow.
But it's currently in review at the moment, so I'm not sure whether it will come in this month. If not, it might hit the next release.
Cool. And then did anybody join the call with like a request for a new resource or request for significant changes or other open items for discussion? Any major situations where you're blocked or feel like you can't be successful because of anything related to a resource? No? Anybody who's a maintainer that wanted to speak specifically about any of the changes that you approved for this month? Okay. If not, I think 20 minutes may be all that we need. We will, in the announcements that go out, we'll make sure to call out the breaking changes as the really significant items. I think we can wrap it up. Any other open items of discussion? All right. Once again, Johan, thank you very much for all of your efforts on this. This has been fantastic.
Yeah, it's been fun. And it's especially fun working with all people around the world. They are so great. And I see a lot of momentum. Since in the 1.5 months I have been working now, it's been ramping up.
Yeah,
people are seeing it's starting to move. So yeah, it's fun.
It's growing by an exponential rate at this point. So. All right, I will hit stop.